and tell us a little bit about what he does, and maybe answer some questions for you guys and kind of give you a pro perspective. I know a lot of you guys are new, but there's some experienced, investors in here as well as some flippers. So we'll just I'll let Jerry, introduce himself. He knows he knows the story a little bit better than I do, but I've been following for quite some time. So Jerry, if you want to just kind of give a brief introduction of who you are and how you got into real estate, and then we'll kind of take it from there.
Okay, great. Yeah, so Jerry Norton, I've been a full-time flipper, wholesaler and flipper since about 2004, 2005. So for about 15 years or so now. And I started in the Detroit market, wholesaling at the really low end. So the $5,000 and $10,000 houses is kind of where I started. And I did it part-time for about a year. My goal was to make enough money to replace my current job, my income at my job for like a year's worth of that saved up, which wasn't very much because I was working minimum wage in construction, underground construction. So I was digging holes for a utility company. And so I kind of was a mornings, nights, and weekends kind of doing the business a little bit, trying to do some wholesale deals here and there. It took a while to kind of deal and kind of do a few deals, but I ended up getting to that point where I had about $25,000 or so kind of set aside from wholesale deals. Then I quit the job, did it full time. What's kind of amazing is my first month full time, I did 5 wholesale deals and made $52,000.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was like really hit home to me that this was what I wanted to do.
Exactly. Especially in those Michigan winters.
Yeah, I did this all through it didn't matter when it was through the summer, winter. And so, so that was, so I did mostly wholesaling for the first couple of years when I went full time. My first rehab for like 2 or 3 years into the business. And what was happening in Detroit is the market crashed and there was, I called it the cheap factor, where people from outside of the Michigan market, Detroit market, were coming and buying because everything was so cheap. And so I started wholesaling to these out-of-staters from California, even foreigners from other countries were buying in Detroit. And the problem though is they couldn't buy their next deal until they had fixed up that one and got it rented. These were all buy and hold investors that were buying these. And so to kind of speed up the process so I could wholesale another deal to these investors, I offered to then help, renovate their homes. So by default, I got into the rehabbing side of the business, not because I wanted to at all, but I started to learn how to manage rehabs. And so then I took it another step further and I said, well, why don't I find them, fix them up, and put a tenant in, and I'll just sell it to them like turnkey. Right. And so I did that for a while and got to a point where I was doing 60, 70, 80 of those a year, flipping them to investors, where I was buying them, fixing them, and selling them. And so I went from maybe earning $3,000 to $5,000, sometimes $10,000 on a wholesale deal, to now earning $15,000 to $20,000 doing a turnkey flip. Because I'd be all into them for about 20, 25, and then I'd sell them for 40, 45,000. Again, these are low income homes, so really low pricing. Then, 08 happened and people could no longer get financing, because what was happening is my buyers they would buy them. They would still appraise for like 80,000. They'd refinance them for 50,000 or whatever, do a cash out refi, then buy another one. So I could sell one guy 10 houses following that pattern. And that kind of fell out. No one could get financing. So then I was limited to just flipping them to cash buyers, like real cash buyers that actually had cash and weren't refinancing. So that model kind of died, but I adapted really quickly and I immediately went retail. Even though the market wasn't good, there were still buyers, even through that whole time. There were still buyers that wanted, renovated homes. So I started doing kind of first-time buyer homes where I would buy them, fix them up, and flip them for around the 100 to 150,000 price point. The area, kind of Royal Oak and 1,000, 1,200 square foot ranches that were kind of to me, they were kind of cookie cutter because I could kind of go in and do the same thing every time. Do new kitchens, tile cabinets, granite, all of it, paint, carpet, wood floors. So I was doing that really well. Now I was starting to make 25, 30, sometimes 35,000 a deal. And with the idea of, how can I progress? How can I get better? How can I learn more? For some people in wholesaling, that means doing more deals. I see a lot of people that as they try to grow and expand their wholesaling business, they think in terms of volume, like, oh, I just got to do more deals. I got to build a bigger team. And that is certainly one way to do it. That wasn't the path I took. What I decided to do was go for more margin than volume. So big,
keep, right?
What's that?
How much of that profit do you keep, right?
That's right. What happened was I was doing these little houses that I was making maybe 25, 30 on usually. And then I ended up by accident doing this kind of bigger, nicer home in an area called Rochester Hills. It's like a 3,500 square foot house now instead of a 1,000 square foot house. And I flipped this house and I made $75,000 on the flip. And I sat back and I thought, you know what? Really, if I think about it, it was about the same amount of work and effort and energy to do that deal as it was to do the little deal. But I made 3 times as much.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it was more capital in a bigger house, but essentially it was the same thing. I still had to manage a rehab. I still had to raise capital. I still had to sell it, right? I had to do all the same things that you normally would have to do. But I made 3 times as much. So I really made a transition mentally when that deal happened. And the following year I did a fifth of the number of flips and made twice as much money in the business. And that was a real eye-opener for me. I continue to wholesale because that's my roots and I love wholesaling. Kind of the model I follow now is I'm not just a wholesaler. I'm not just a flipper. I combine the two. And what I do is I really focus on, so I farm for deals and then I keep the home run deals that make the really big profits and I fix and flip those. And then I basically wholesale out the singles, doubles, and triples. Right. So I'm very picky, very selective about which deals I'll fix and flip and then wholesale everything else out. Because in your effort of farming, you're going to get all types of deals. You're going to get the home run deals. But I tell people, why wholesale a home run deal? If you can make $75,000 fixing and flipping it, why aren't you doing that? Most people, it's because they don't know how to raise capital. They don't know how to manage a rehab. Well, those are things you can learn how to do. I mean, it's not that many more steps to wholesaling because you've already got the deal. Acquisitions is half of it, if not more, because that's the hardest part of the business is getting the deal. So I went through lumps. I learned a lot, but I got really good at managing rehabs. I got really good at, I call it flexing my risk muscle. So what that meant to me was I kept trying to think, okay, well, how can I push a little bit more out of my comfort zone? And for me, that meant doing kind of a bigger deal and a bigger deal and a bigger deal. You know, fast forward today and I do multi-million-dollar flips, still residential. So I do new construction specs and new construction fix and flips, but they're in the $1 million price point. But I've got, like, for example, right now I've got 2 deals that are hopefully we'll sell before the end of the year. We're finishing them up. But they're one's at 1.7 million, the other one's at 1.5 million. And I mean, I'm into both of these deals for around $1 million. I mean, I've got carry costs, I've got closing costs, but you can see these are high net profit deals, and that's just 2 deals. And I'm 100% funded on these deals. I've got none of my own money into these deals. So, that didn't happen overnight, but it was a transition process. But what I want to tell people when I tell people is, don't limit yourself to just thinking, I only can make so much on a wholesale deal. I can only do so many deals, or, raising capital or whatever those things are that are kind of unknowns, whether you're working on your first deal or you're already doing deals. Go into this business with the idea of how can I do this better, smarter, faster, and how can I focus on building a business that does deals, not just chase deals. I think 99% of people in our business, they're just out there chasing after a deal instead of focusing on building a business that does deals. And when you build a business that does deals, you're really looking at the bigger picture. You're putting in the right processes, the right systems. You're bringing on the right people, right? You're building out the things that you need to where you're no longer the bottleneck, and you can expand and do bigger or more deals without working more. So one of my big things is really having a lifestyle business. So I'm not perfect at it, but I try really hard not to lose sight of that. And I see that happen a lot in our industry. I see a lot of these wholesalers that are doing, 6 and 7 figures. And we talk about grind and hustle and work hard, and those are all good attributes, but at what expense? And I see a lot of these wholesalers that they're making money, but they're just working so hard all the time, 7 days a week. And so then other areas of their life really, really struggle, their relationships and maybe their health. And so these are things where I kind of look at the whole big picture and say, am I right with God? Am I right with my family? Am I right with other people? And making a lot of money.
Right.
You can do that. You can do that, but it does take balance and it does take conscious effort to think about, how do I build a lifestyle business? For many years, many of the past, I'd say 5 to 8 years, my average work week was about a 30-hour week working. And that's between multiple businesses, because I have my training business, I have my deal business, I have a brokerage I own. And so, but I've really tried to look at the business and say, how do I get other people who can do that specific thing to do it? How do I get people that can do that better than me so that I can get out of the way, they can do it, and then the business can thrive. And
right.
then
It's a mind shift, Shane, shift, as far as, how can I step away and trust somebody to do as well or better than what I'm doing in my own business. And
even if it's not as good, if it's 80% as good as if you did it, but you don't have to do it now, that's worth it. That's kind of that's kind of my threshold. If I can find somebody that can do it 80% as good or better, ideally better, but at least 80%, but now I don't have to do it, that's worth the trade-off, because now that frees me up to then focus on higher level activities. I really look at everything I do and I try to say, is this a high value activity or a low value activity? Or, is this the best use of my time? I like to ask that a lot. Is this the best use of my time right now? Or if I'm worth $1,000 an hour, would I be doing this task? And it's amazing how often the answer is no, I wouldn't. So then why am I doing that? Why am I not getting somebody else to do that?
Right.
So
love it.
Yeah.
And it's a mind shift too, as far as, the beginning wholesaler that wants to leave their job and they want to make $100,000 a year. If you don't constantly grow that mindset, you're stuck in that 100,000 a year, wholesaling job versus, building a business, that can be, a $10 million wholesaling, business. There's no limit, and I think that, a lot of people, have a misconnect when it comes to, building their mindset and, that personal development.
Yeah, I very much fell into that for many years in the beginning, where I had traded one job for another job. And that was a higher paying job. I was making a lot more money, but I was stressed and I was overworking and I was not, the money wore off and I wasn't happy,
Right.
So that's where that balance and lifestyle has to come in, because what'll happen, and this is what I tell people that I coach, if you start working these 80-hour weeks to build a business, because that's what everybody says you have to do, and then you put that work in your mind, you say, well, when I arrive, when I get there, then I'll cut back and I'll enjoy things, right? Because I've arrived. The problem with that mindset is you form habits when you're working those 80-hour weeks, and those habits don't die easy. They don't leave easy. So that's why you see people who have a lot of money and they're still working a lot of hours. Why are they working so hard? They have a lot of money. It's because they formed habits and they just don't know any other way to do it.
Right.
And you look at them and they're 50 and they've got, they're divorced and the kids don't want anything to do with them, and their health is bad, but they got a lot of money.
Burned out.
That's not what I'm after. I hope that's not what you're after. Always remember the reason why you did this in the first place. When I first started, it was to provide a better life for my family. I didn't feel like I was cutting it for my wife and kids. I felt like they deserved better than what I could give them. And I felt like I was missing out because I had to be at that job, and I was missing out on my kids' activities. And so that's what propelled me to get into that business and make those hard choices and those sacrifices. So don't lose sight of that at all as you go through this journey. And it's a journey. Everybody's on a journey. Everybody learns at different paces. Everyone says, well, how long? I get this question all the time. How long does it take to get your first deal? And I hate that question, because what you're assuming that you're equal to somebody else. And if it took somebody else longer or shorter, then that must equal how long it takes you to do it. But you're you, and your experience and your journey is unique to you. So don't worry about how long it took somebody else, and just get out there and do what you need to do to get your first deal. Don't worry about other people.
Right. And to that point, I've seen guys that have gotten a deal, week one.
Yeah.
And they're no longer in this business.
Yeah.
And then I've seen guys that it took them 9 months, and they're doing, they're running a 7-figure business.
Yeah.
It's just everybody's at their own pace, and need to adjust accordingly.
Yeah, that's just it. I mean, but it takes, I mean, don't kid yourself. Anybody who's getting into this business, it's going to take work. It's going to take effort. It's going to take sacrifice, and it's going to take risk. I mean, you're going to have to get deals under contract, and you're going to have to put earnest money in jeopardy sometimes. And I mean, I've done deals now where I put a lot on the line to get one of the big deals done. And, I wish I could say I've won every single time. I haven't. I don't think anybody who's honest in the business, that's been in the business a long time, will tell you that they've only done winning deals, right?
Right.
No baseball player bats 1,000%. So, learn from those failures, make those mistakes. The one thing that I feel like I've done really well over the years is every time I failed or made a mistake, I didn't let that stop me or set me back. I just got back on the horse and I just tried again and I learned from it. And so I made a lot of mistakes, but I've just kind of failed again and learned and failed again and learned. And that just allowed me to continue growing because I wasn't afraid of failure.
Yes, I've often heard, mentors of mine saying the revenues and the resilience.
Yeah, I love that.
If you're resilient enough to get your head bashed in a little bit, you'll see the fruits of your labor. And
I tell people when you first get in this business, plan on making 100 offers to get one deal. Maybe it doesn't take that many, but if you go in with the mindset of I got to make 100 offers before I'm going to get that first deal, and you accept that reality, and you're willing to get 99 no's, 99 rejections, 99 people telling you who told you this would work, and there's no way anybody would take that price, and all those things that are negativity, and you're willing to do that to get that one deal that makes 10 grand or whatever, man, you're going to win in this business.
Right. And to that point, Jerry, could you speak, I've had, students in Jaelin's group here that, they ask for suggestions on how to, get started with little or no money. And we tell them, go driving for dollars, and they'll find one property and they'll spend a whole week thinking that this is going to be their deal. Yeah. Right. And it doesn't work that way.
No, this is something that if anybody follows my YouTube channel and watches any of my videos, I mean, I've got over 400 videos on the Flipping Mastery TV channel. And it's something I talk about constantly, which is the amount of time you spend on leads. And you have to have a filter on your leads. First of all, you have to generate a lot of leads. And then you've got to be able to filter through those leads and not spend too much time per lead. So like what I do is I do a very quick analysis on the numbers. I get a very ballpark buy number, and then I make my offer without any due diligence, sometimes without seeing the property. I just go through and I run the buy formula. I make some assumptions on ARV. I make some assumptions on repairs, and I have a software that kind of just gives me some ballpark numbers. And then I put the offer in front of the seller, because making offers is not about getting deals. It's about identifying motivated sellers.
Exactly.
And if you can learn that one thing, if that's like the only thing you take away today, making offers is to identify a motivated seller, because your lowball offer, by the way they respond to that offer, you will know if they're motivated or not. Because if they come down drastically from where they're at to where you're offering, then you'll know they're motivated. If they don't, then aren't you glad you didn't spend a lot of time on it? The mistake new people make in this business is they spend hours and hours and hours on one lead. Then they don't get the offer accepted, and so they get through like 2 or 3 leads in an entire week. Whereas I go through 100 offers a month, and sometimes much more. So that's 5 a day, that's 25 a week, like clockwork. And then as your ratios improve and you go to 50 to 1, 25 to 1, now the same 100 offers get you 4 deals.
Right.
That's just a numbers game, guys. It really is just a numbers game. You've gotta look at leads and say, how fast can I get to an offer to that seller?
And your quick analysis is probably 5-10 minutes.
5 minutes.
Right.
Literally.
Right.
Literally 5 minutes. Well, what if I'm off on my repair number? What if I'm off on my ARV number? Who cares? They're not usually going to just accept your offer. They're going to counter. And when you offer, let me see if I can get this in the screen. When they're up here and you offer down here, and then they go like this, okay, now spend some time on it. Now really look at the numbers, right? Because now you've identified they're motivated.
Right.
So, have an inspection clause in there. That's your way out in case it does get accepted and you're off. Some due diligence time. I always have due diligence on all my deals. But I make sight unseen offers every single day without ever seeing the properties, and I make an offer to the seller.
Now you've got some software that helps you, the proprietary software.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Anybody who's interested, if you go to Get Flipster, it's called Flipster. It's my T-shirt here, Flipster. Or getflipster.com. It's you can check it out. There's a video and it shows you like how it works and stuff. But yeah, it's really nice because you enter in the property. We built algorithms that will do ARV and repairs based on assumptions of the market where it's at and based on square footage of the home and whether it's a light, average, or heavy rehab. So you put in a couple of numbers and boom, it gives you numbers. Now they're not accurate because you haven't really looked at the data,
right.
But it gets you pretty dang close enough to make an offer and start the process. And then it allows you to adjust. So then when you're ready, you can go in there and really adjust your numbers and get your exact formula when you're ready.
Now we have a bunch of young investors in here that are in their early 20s, and are more on the tech side of things and wanting to do everything virtually.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for people that are? And I know you virtually wholesale as well.
Yes.
So what advice do you have for those guys that are maybe living in LA and wanting to wholesale in Indianapolis?
Yeah, I love virtual wholesaling. I've got a lot of videos on the YouTube channel where I break down kind of how I do that. So that's a really great way to do the business. You have to still learn the market, so there's no way around that. What's great is you can learn your market virtually on sites like Redfin and Zillow, where you identify where you want to farm for leads, and then you get in there and you really focus on learning those neighborhoods. My big thing is everything I do is price per square foot. So I always want to learn what's the price per square foot of the market. And then what I like to do is identify the low-hanging fruit, which is properties that are listed for sale below the average sold price per square foot in that market.
Now you've got some tools. You've got some tools within Flipster that can actually do that. Take that guesswork.
Yeah, that's right. We have a tool that does that for you. I actually give away a free version of that. That's just that tool. It's called mydatacruncher.com, and you can get a login for that for free. And what that does is it basically you put the zip code in, and it grabs the average sold price per square foot of that zip code, and then it gives you a list of every home for sale on the market right now that's for sale below the average sold price.
If we could speak to that for just a second, Jerry, as far as most of the strategies that the coaches are teaching are, send out as much direct mail as possible. Yeah. Send out as many, text messages, voicemail blasts. Can you talk about, what marketing strategies, you're using as far as, finding some of these, that maybe are on market deals?
Yeah, so let me talk about that because you're right. Everybody out there teaches all of the off-market strategies, and those work, and those are great, and I subscribe to all of those. But nobody's really talking right now about how to win on market, and there are still a lot of good deals on market. So I do a couple things. First thing I do, and this is critical to being able to do well with on market, you have to follow what I call the double dip strategy. What this means is you do not work with a buyer's agent. And you have to understand how real estate agency works with on market. You have a listing agent and you have a buyer's agent. The listing agent gets 3% for the listing. The buyer's agent gets 3% for bringing a buyer.
Right. And
the seller pays it. So you don't pay it as a buyer, as an investor. The seller pays the full 6%. So it doesn't matter how it's broken out, the seller pays it. Now, so what I do is rather than go and make an offer using a buyer's agent with a listing agent, it's technically called dual agency. That's the double dip part. And so what happens now is I get listing agents not only motivated to get me that deal I'm calling about, right, their listing, but now getting pocket listings because now they're calling me. And this just happened to me over the weekend. I had an agent who I double dipped on a deal. We didn't get it. This is in Illinois. And this was 2 months ago or so. That agent called me back on Friday and he said, hey, I've got this seller. They want to go on market. They're asking $99.9. It's a great deal. It's a distressed house. Let me know if you're interested. I looked at it. I ran my numbers, and I got pictures and everything, all virtually, and I could buy 105 and wholesale it for 115, or for 15,000 for 120. So $15,000 wholesale fee at a 105 buy. So I went back to that agent. I said, I want it. I'll pay full price. I'll pay your $99.9. And so I got this. We call that a pocket listing, right? Because it's an agent who got the listing, but rather than go on market, he called me about it. I agreed to pay the price. The seller's already agreed to pay 6% total. Now that agent just got 6% by bringing that deal to me. Right. Now imagine if you had dozens of agents in your market doing that. You'd be getting some pretty good deals all the time.
And the reason why I asked is I wanted to circle back around to your data cruncher software.
Yeah.
And making the 100 offers a month, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm sitting here in Denver, Colorado, and I want to, make offers in Memphis, Tennessee, or Indianapolis, I can, go look for the on-market properties and see which ones are, undervalued and go after those and make offers, right here from Denver and Memphis and Indianapolis. And that's how you get to the 100 offers.
Yeah.
Versus having to, send out, 10,000, postcards and hope, 100 people call you.
Well, what's great about this is it's free. It doesn't cost you anything to do on market. So what you do is use that software, go to mydatacruncher.com and you can get it. And then it gives you a list per zip code for as many zip codes as you want. So you can go through a zip code, scrape it and go through and find the ones that you're interested in. Call up the listing agent, tell the listing agent I'm unrepresented. I don't have an agent representing me. I'd like you to submit the offer for me so that you can get both sides of the commission. How does that sound? And that's how doing that process right there, you could get to 100 offers a month, especially if you're not spending a ton of time on the offer. So then the agent says, yeah, I'll submit your offer. You say, okay, I need to be around, and you give them your ballpark number. They may even ask you, hey, have you seen this property? But I tell them, as I say, no, I don't need to see it. I know what my numbers are. I'll need to get some due diligence, and I'll need to go send somebody over there, if we get a contract. But I feel pretty good about my number at 90,000 or whatever it is. Agent submits the offer, and boom, you're off to the races.
And guys, 100 offers a month is 5 a day.
It's not that hard.
That's after work hours. You get home at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, have dinner with your family, and then when everybody goes to sleep, submit 5 offers.
Yeah, you're so right. It doesn't have, the problem is most people think they have to go out and look at properties, and you spend half a day when you do that. Like, that's not a good use of time. I don't go look at properties. While you're out looking at one property, I've made 10 offers. Who's going to win?
Right.
I'm going to win every time because I'm going to beat you on volume with offers. So don't do that. Like, don't fall into that trap of, that's why, driving for dollars, I think, is a great strategy. That's not a good use of time. That's not leveraging your time.
Very time
consuming, driving for dollars.
Right.
I mean, it's a fine place to start, but you are not going to grow the business driving for dollars. Now, instead, get bird dogs. Get 100 other people driving for dollars. Right? I mean, think how you can leverage yourself, because there's only so much time in the day, especially if you're part-time in it. I see all these people that are like, yeah, I'm driving for dollars, before and after work and stuff. And I cringe because I know that it's going to be a hard go at this business. If not only are you limited on time as a part-timer trying to get into the business, but then you're doing activities that are not leveraging what limited time you do have.
Right. And that's hard to sustain, for any amount of time.
Yeah, I get it all the time where people are like, hey, I've been driving for dollars for 3 months and I haven't got my first deal and I'm so frustrated. I'm so burned out. And it's like, well, yeah, because you're spending hours to get to 1 or 2 leads.
Right.
Like, there's faster ways to leads. And that's why you look at these guys that are doing, any of the players that are doing 5, 10, 20 or more deals a month, any of those players, those wholesalers at that level, they have figured out how to leverage their acquisitions. They are moving a lot of data. They are looking at a lot of leads, and they've got filters in place where it's a funnel. All these leads are coming in this funnel, and then their output is a couple deals, and they want. So if it takes 100 leads to get one deal, or 1,000 leads to get one deal, those guys are just going through 10,000 leads, 20,000 leads. Now they're at 20 deals, right? It's just a numbers game.
Right. Now, I've had a few people submit some questions to me, Jerry. If you've got a couple extra minutes to, address some of these. I know one was, how do you get your lead flow where it's, more predictive as far as, constant lead flow and he said that he's, gets leads, sporadically and never knows when his next lead's going to come in.
Oh yeah. Well, you have to look at leads like going fishing. If you have one line in the water, maybe you catch a fish. I don't know if you guys have ever done this. I went deep sea fishing this past summer in Mexico, and our tour guide, he put out literally 20 lines in the water. And we were catching fish like crazy because we had a lot of lines in the water. The more lines in the water, the more fish you're going to catch. And so I think it's dangerous to rely on any one lead source. Like, I'm just going to drive for dollars, or I'm just going to do tax delinquents, or I'm just going to do pre-foreclosure or whatever, or I'm just going to do mailings. There are so many tools out there today. If you got to start with one, but always be thinking, how do I expand my leads to where I'm doing more leads, different strategies of leads, and then track everything you're doing and put more energy in the ones that are working more, but you're always testing. You're always seeing, hey, is there a new lead source that's working in my market? And there is no right or wrong answer because every market is different. Some types of leads, like I hear people say, tax foreclosure is the best lead type. There's nothing better than that. Well, for them in their market at this point in time, maybe. Right. I mean, that's going to apply to everybody everywhere, right? So you got to figure that out, though. Honestly, though, if you look at like what's most effective down to least effective, the most effective way is to buy data and call it. Like you can buy leads fairly inexpensively. We give leads as part of Flipster if you're in the Flipster program, but then pick up the phone or get a virtual assistant or a phone dialer and have them pick up the phone. That is the most effective because talking to people always is the most effective. Right. Proactively. So that's the most effective. There's a cost to that because somebody's got to be on the phones. But then you can move down to text blast and ringless voicemail and direct mail and some of these other tools. And if you want to succeed like the players, they're doing all of those things, right? They're on the phones. They're doing text blasting. They're doing ringless voicemail. They're doing direct mail, right? They're emailing. They're doing all the things because they understand that the more times I touch a person and the more leads I can touch, the more deals I'm going to do. Right.
A follow-up to that was, how does the marketing shift from the $50,000 motivated seller versus the $500,000 motivated seller?
Well, I love that question. Here's the funny thing. Here's what's crazy about it. So I'm in the Phoenix market here, which is the #1 flipping market in the U.S. Like there are more flippers in Phoenix than anywhere else in the U.S. Right. It's extremely competitive. But the higher up you go in price point, the less competition you have. So I hardly have competition. There's no competition, but I have a fraction of the competition at the $1 million rehabbing level than I do at the 200,000 level. Like I don't even touch in Phoenix anything under 600,000 because, and I could even say that about 300,000. It just drastically drops off the competition because in this market, flippers are okay to make 10 grand on a fix and flip. That's crazy to me that you would do all of that to make 10 grand, but that's the market here. It's so competitive.
That's going to change in a down market though.
It'll change in a down, it's an up market, right? So you can mess up and make money right now. Well, because your margins are tight, you can still make money. Right. A lot of them will go away when the market shifts and you have to work a lot harder to make money.
Right.
So, but up there in the $1 million price point, there's not very many people up there. So It's something to really think about. Like, why? There's not much of a transition to go from 200,000 to 600,000. Not much.
Motivation's motivation, right?
Well, I just mean as far as like doing a deal that's got an ARV of 600 versus an ARV of 200. So people limit themselves and they're like, I can't even go up there. The biggest fears are capital. Like, how do I get the capital? And then there's so many buyers at those lower levels that it's easy to get into all my buyers are down there. But if you're a wholesaler and you could generate buyers that like the higher end stuff, and you could cultivate a higher end buyer list, and then go farm and chase after those higher end flips, you're going to make a lot more money per deal flipping a fix and flip, wholesaling a fix and flipper, a house that's got a 600 ARV than you are a house that's got a 200 ARV.
Right.
Like that's where you can wholesale a house for 50 grand.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Another question was more of a lifestyle. How do you build your business around your lifestyle? Now you've got a family, 9 kids, correct?
9 kids.
So I don't even know how you have time to do anything.
Yeah. My motto is you can sleep when you're dead. Yeah.
I grew up one of 6 kids, all adopted, and
wow.
My family always had 2 foster kids that were in their teens all the time.
No kidding.
And my mom would. We had this conversation offline the other day. My mom would buy 5 gallons of milk every time she went to the grocery store, and that was every other day.
Yeah. You don't want to see our Costco bill. Yeah. Yeah, but it's balancing that lifestyle. I mean, it's never easy. I mean, but one of the things I do is I don't have the self-control to do it myself. So I have to put filters in my life that allow me to do it. So for example, I have downtime on my phone that my wife knows the code to that I can't turn off. And so it turns off my phone in the evening where nothing works except phone and text. No email, none of my apps, nothing works. And it forces me to put the phone away, forces me to be present. On Sunday, it's shut off for the entire day.
Wow.
So that I can really focus on my spirituality and being with my family. And I don't have the discipline to not go to my phone and work. I don't know. I think most men that are hard workers and have been taught to work hard and are motivated and driven, it's extremely difficult to balance relationships and work and spirituality and work and health and fitness and work. Work will tend to kind of just permeate into your life everywhere you go. And so, I have routines that I follow that where I put work away. So what I have to do is I have to say, I've got a window of time to do my work. So, and I'm not going to go outside of that window because if I do, then it'll jeopardize my lifestyle. So how do I get the things done that I want to get done, make the money I want to make, grow my businesses, make more money within that allotted window of time? And by putting those parameters, putting those hard walls up, it just forces me to be more productive because I don't have a choice. Like I only have so much time to get everything done I need to get done. So that for me, that's what works. And that's what helps me really, keep that lifestyle focus.
Another question I'm seeing here is, at what point would you make the transition from the newbie wholesaler that maybe has done, 4 or 5 deals to taking on some fix and flips? Is there a back to your statement earlier? There's probably not a right time. You grow to that point,
Yeah. What you have to grow is your risk muscle, because when the minute you do a fix and flip, you take on significantly more risk than wholesaling. Because if you can't with wholesaling, if you can't find a cash buyer, you back out of the deal. Maybe you piss off the seller or an agent or whatever, but nothing happens, right? Maybe you lose your earnest money. That's about it.
Right.
That's about the worst thing that'll happen if you screw up a wholesale. Not a fix and flip. Fix and flip, you borrow money, it doesn't sell. You could lose tens of thousands of dollars if you screw up a fix and flip. So there's significantly more risk. So you have to look at things in terms of where are you at on your risk tolerance scale, and have some self-awareness. Ask yourself, hey, the thought of losing, if I lose $5,000 on a fix and flip, that would be devastating to me. If I lose $10,000 on a fix and flip, that would be devastating. Like, where's your devastation level? Mine now is 6 figures. Like I can take a 6-figure risk and do that with confidence because I built my risk tolerance muscle that high, right? So think about where you're at. The way that you can transition is to think really small in the beginning. Like think a carpet paint type project. It just needs carpet and paint. Like, you can't screw that up too bad.
Right.
Don't go into a full-blown gut, right, where you're going to be rebuilding a house and adding an addition and all of that. Like, don't do that out of the gate. Build up to that if that's you. Or maybe do a wholesale deal where you're just going to buy it, close on it, right? Fund it, close on it, and then you're just going to relist it and sell it that way without doing anything to it. Like, those are steps in that direction to turning into fix and flip and doing bigger deals. But honestly, most people, wholesaling is just part of the journey. It isn't the destination. Some stay with wholesaling, like they don't transition ever out of wholesaling, and they just build like big wholesaling businesses is kind of their next level. But that's not generally what happens. Most people transition from wholesaling into fix and flip and into other things. It's a bridge.
Again, make that local real estate agent your friend. They'll tell you what is selling. What upgrades you need to make in this kitchen. To make it attractive to buyers in the local market. Until you become very locked into your local market and what's selling. Use some of these outside resources and then pretty soon okay, this is the kitchen I need to put in zip code 38127.
Yeah. What I do along those lines is every single fix and flip deal I do, the very first thing I do is I hire my listing agent and I hire the #1 selling agent in that particular market. And then I have them come in and they help me create the rehab design because they know what buyers want. They know what I cannot do, what I have to do. They know all the nuances of what that house should look like to get top dollar. And so I lean on their expertise because they're the experts, not me. Right. And that's how you build. That's how you don't over renovate. That's how you don't under renovate. That's how you don't put in the wrong stuff. Like I see people rehabbing and they're putting in the wrong stuff because they think that's what they like or that's what they think it should be. Always seek out the #1 producing agent in your market and have them tell you what to do.
Right. Love it. So it looks like we are close on your time.
Yeah.
Can you tell folks, where they can find you? As far as I found you on YouTube. I'm a visual learner.
Mm-hmm.
Some people can just read and read and read. And 5 minutes into a book, I'm thinking about, what's for dinner, And so I found you on YouTube, and I to this day, I'm always pulling gems out of your YouTube channel and love it. It's and you're constantly updating with fresh content all the time. What's that YouTube channel and how can they find you?
Flipping Mastery TV. If you go to YouTube and you search that channel, definitely do that. If you go to the playlist section, I think we've got like 50 different playlists where we've broken out all the different topics. One of the challenges with when you go onto YouTube for education, which is amazing, is you're going to get random ideas about different topics. And so you're going to be getting little pieces of the puzzle that way. And you want to really be able to think about, okay, well, how do I put the puzzle all together? And so the playlists I put together really help do that because you can kind of go deep on one topic and get the whole picture by looking at multiple videos on that one topic, and then the next topic that you're trying to solve in your puzzle.
Your team's done an excellent job on that. I've got to hand it to you. I go in there and I would just get lost in the playlist.
Yeah,
and it's very, very helpful.
Good. So definitely there.
What is the wholesaling side of your business look like? Do you have a large team of, do you have 20 callers in your business or?
No, I'm not so I rely heavily, this has been a transition for me. So I rely heavily on a bird dog model in my business. My model is a little unique because I have a really big training company, and in that training company, I have finder programs where people can bring me deals. So I do get a lot of deal flow from students, bird dogs that bring deals to me. So that's been a really big part of my business. I am a virtual wholesaler, and I do look at deals in kind of any market. I love fix and flip. So I even have a program. If your listeners want to check it out, you can go to my10kcheck.com, and there's a video you can watch and a training you can register for about how to be a finder. What's great about that is if you find a deal that fits my criteria and you're in that program, then you can submit it to me. If it meets the criteria, I'll buy it, pay you $10,000. And so a lot of people like that who don't really have a buyer's list yet, and they don't want to really worry about the buyer's list. They want to just worry about getting a deal. Then I could be that buyer, so, and it doesn't matter where it's at. As long as it's a deal, I'm interested. So,
okay.
On that training, you can learn about what that looks like and the criteria and how you submit deals and all of that. But, so yeah, but I'm a really big believer in a low overhead, low stress. I kind of talked about that. So I know some guys have, a floor and people everywhere and acquisitions teams and all of that. But honestly, if you're fixing and flipping one home run deal a month that makes, 60, 70,000 or higher, one a month, and then you're wholesaling out a couple deals a month, you're at $1 million business model. Like
right,
you're at net profit.
Right.
So there's more than one way to get to $1 million business income, net income business, and volume isn't the only way. So don't limit yourself. What it really comes down to, honestly, is it depends who you're really attaching yourself to as who you're following as a mentor. Anybody who comes through my mentoring stuff, I teach them how to get to the $1 million a year doing 3 to 5 deals a month. And other people teach how to get there doing 20 deals a month.
Right.
And they really help build out this big team model and this big, but I just don't like that high overhead, high stress, dependent on a lot of people, a big engine to feed every month.
Right.
And that I didn't enjoy that.
Well, lastly, Jerry, as we kindly wrap up here, I know I speak for Jaelin, thanks for coming into the group and, being an open participant and sharing, new ideas and some, some of your thoughts. But if you want to give us, one final thought on, we'll just take it from there and wrap this up.
Yeah, guys, it's all about making those offers. You've got to make 100 offers a month. If you make 100 offers a month, I promise you will start doing deals every single month. So if you're wondering why can't I get that deal? Why can't I get that deal? Every time I ask somebody, it's usually almost every time because they're not making enough offers. So if you're trying to get to that first deal, make more offers and you'll get it. You'll get there.
Right.
Okay, just look at it like a numbers game. And I guess finally, there was just one thought that I hope anybody who knows me, or I try to say as often as I can, is that it's not about the money. We talk about the money all the time, but it's not about the money. It's about the time and freedom that it gives so that you can have, be, do, and give everything you want in life. And that's really what this is all about. And so just don't ever lose that perspective that it's about time and freedom. It's not about the money itself. It's about what that money provides and what it's a means to an end. Is really.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. Well, Jerry, again, I appreciate you coming on here.
Yeah, it's been fun.
All the best to you and your family, and let's keep in touch. And
awesome.
maybe we'll grab dinner next time I'm in Phoenix.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, everybody. See ya.